If you were to light a match on Jupiter, the planet would not explode. However, the match would be quickly extinguished due to Jupiter's extremely high atmospheric pressure. The pressure on Jupiter is about 2.5 times greater than Earth's atmospheric pressure at sea level. This means that there is very little oxygen present in Jupiter's atmosphere, making it difficult for a fire to start and sustain itself. Even if a fire did manage to ignite on Jupiter, it would be quickly snuffed out by the dense atmosphere. So while lighting a match on Jupiter wouldn't cause an explosion, it wouldn't exactly be a fun experience either. Other cool experiments to try on Jupiter. See how long you can hold your breath. With the high atmospheric pressure on Jupiter, it would be difficult to hold your breath for more than a few seconds. Try to jump as high as you can. The dense atmosphere on Jupiter would make it difficult to jump very high. See how fast you can run before the dense atmosphere slows you down. The dense atmosphere of Jupiter would make it difficult to run very fast. Try to light a fire, good luck with that one. As mentioned before, the lack of oxygen in Jupiter's atmosphere would make it very difficult to light a fire. How long would it take you to get to Jupiter? It would take about 48 hours to get to Jupiter if you were traveling at the speed of light. However, it would take much longer if you were traveling by conventional means. For example, it takes NASA's Juno spacecraft about 5 years to reach Jupiter. So unless you have a spaceship that can travel at the speed of light, it will take quite some time to get to Jupiter. If you're planning a trip to Jupiter, be sure to pack your patience along with your spacesuit. What would happen if your spacesuit broke on Jupiter? If your spacesuit were to break on Jupiter, the atmospheric pressure would crush you. The pressure on Jupiter is about 2.5 times greater than Earth's atmospheric pressure at sea level. This means that there is very little oxygen present in Jupiter's atmosphere, making it difficult to breathe. You would also be exposed to Jupiter's intense radiation, which would quickly kill you. What would happen if you get lost on the way to Jupiter? If you get lost on the way to Jupiter, there is a good chance that you will never be found. Jupiter is a gas giant with no solid surface, so if you were to drift off course, you would likely just float aimlessly in space until you ran out of air or food. Even if you did manage to land on one of Jupiter's moons, chances are you would not be able to survive for long. The atmospheric pressure and radiation levels on Jupiter's moons are similar to those on the planet itself, so unless you had a spacesuit and an oxygen supply, you would not last long. So there you have it. If you ever find yourself on Jupiter with a match in hand, don't expect to cause a planet-wide explosion. However, do expect to have a very short-lived fire. And if you're planning a trip to Jupiter, be sure to pack your patience along with your spacesuit. And what would happen if you crashed into Saturn's rings? If you crashed into Saturn's rings, you would most likely just bounce off. The rings are made up of small ice particles, so they are not very dense. However, if you were traveling at a high enough speed, you could break through the rings and crash into Saturn itself. But don't worry too much about that. The chances of crashing into Saturn's rings are pretty slim. In conclusion, Jupiter is a gas giant with no solid surface, so if you were to light a match on the planet, it would not cause an explosion. However, the dense atmosphere would snuff out the fire quickly. If you're planning a trip to Jupiter, be sure to pack your patience along with your spacesuit. And if you find yourself on Jupiter with a match in hand, don't expect to cause a planet-wide explosion, but do expect to have a very short-lived fire.